To see all of the different search categories that Matrix has available, look up to the top left-hand side of the page where you'll see the Search tab. It's actually the second tab in from the left. If I place my mouse over the Search tab, you'll see a drop-down appear with all of my different search categories. I have a search category for each of the 5 primary property types, which are residential, commercial, income, vacant land, and rental. We also have a category called cross-property. With the cross-property type of search, you can actually search for multiple types of properties in one search. So if you need to find residential and rental style properties, instead of searching in 2 different categories, you can do a cross-property search to find both styles of properties. You'll see also included in this list are agent and office search areas, as well as open house searches, and underneath the more option at the bottom of the list, you'll see where the options for property history searches are available. For demonstration purposes, we are going to stick with the residential property type, and you'll see that by placing my mouse over residential, I have this side menu of options that appears. The only thing different between quick and detail is that quick is a shorter set of default criteria available, as opposed to details being a longer set of default criteria available. Either side is just fine to use. Either side can have additional fields added to it, so it doesn't matter which one you prefer to use. I prefer to use the quick option on a regular basis. So because I use quick often, Matrix learns my habits and makes quick available to me directly under the residential property class. I'm going to click on the quick option, and it's going to bring me directly into a search area. These are all the different fields that are available by default. To the left-hand side of the page, you have your types of properties that you're looking for. So you're going to find options for statuses, you're going to find options for contract statuses, for special sales provision, property styles. So am I looking for condos or single-family homes? In the center are all your geographical markers. Where is my property located? And all the way to the right are fields put together that allow you to address the characteristics of the properties you want to find. So you'll see in here price and beds and baths, square footage, those kinds of things that the property would consist of. When we talk about searching, I like to incorporate a little bit of a story. The story includes some true-to-life examples where it may fit your kind of scenario. So in order to start my story, I'd like to speak about my favorite customer in the whole wide world. His name is John Doe. And John and I have been friends for quite some time, and John is a very particular kind of person. So he, in his mind, has an area of town that he would like to live in. And so before I start putting in any criteria, I'm going to click on the map so that I can identify the area John is wanting to live in. I'm going to do that by clicking on the map search option at the top middle of the page here. Once the map loads up, at the top right hand side of the map, you'll see 3 different shapes. You'll see 3 different shapes. Each shape will allow you to blanket an area to identify it as your search region. The circle allows you to do a radius style search. So if you say, I don't want to live any further than 2 miles away from grandma's house, I would locate grandma's address by using the jump to address feature at the top of the page. So I'm going to type in an address. And I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard. Once I hit enter with the address populated into the jump to address field, then my map will jump automatically to that location. So this is grandma's house, and I'm going to use my circle to identify my 2-mile radius. So I'm going to click, and you'll see that you have clicked on the shape because now the shape will turn yellow once you've clicked on it. You're going to slide your mouse cursor right over to the identifying mark on the map. You're going to click and hold and simply drag outward until you've reached your desired distance. So I've reached my 2 miles. I let go of my mouse. My shape solidifies, and now this becomes my search area. Let me clear out this shape by using the broom. Click, and now it makes the shape disappear. Let me start back at the main point I came into. So I have two additional shapes here. I have a rectangle. A rectangle could be thought of like a blanket where you're just covering a certain area, you're just expanding over that area, and this is going to be the shape we're going to use in our example. However, we have a third shape here called a polygon. A polygon lets me draw shapes around areas that are not necessarily exactly a square, or would a circle be useful in that point. When I click on the polygon, I want to cover this little upside down shoe looking area right there, where a square or a rectangle would not normally cover, or a circle would not normally cover the entire area. So I'm going to start my shape here, and I'm going to click on the map. You're going to see this red dot now is on the screen, and then once you move your mouse, you're going to have this line following you no matter where you go. So I'm going to go down until I get to a point where I have to make a turn in any direction, regardless of how subtle the turn is. And I'm going to click once again. Now at this point, this is where most people start to panic about this shape. They don't know exactly what's going on, because when you move it again, now this thing starts following you around and everybody just starts to panic. Don't panic. Just continue along with your shape. And at every turn, you're going to click your mouse. And then your line stays solid at that point. You move to the next point and just continue to click around the areas that you're wanting to search in. The trick about a polygon is that you must always finish where you started. If I don't finish where I start, then all I have is just this open shape that goes on for eternity. So I have to go back to the red dot, and I'm going to click that red dot. Once you click back on the dot that finishes your shape, it closes it out, in other words. And now I have this area that I wanted to cover identified using a polygon. I'm going to use this broom one more time, and we're going to get into our actual example. Using the square, I'm going to identify John's area of interest. So I'm going to click it to select it. I'm going to find my starting point on the map, click and hold, and I'm going to drag over the entire area that I want to cover. Once I let go of the mouse, that area that I've selected becomes my search area. However, let's say I left this area out and I now need to include it. I don't have to redraw my shape. I then just place my mouse on the ending line of one side that I want to extend, and you'll see this gray circle appear underneath your mouse cursor. You're going to click and hold, and at this point you can just simply extend your shape out to its desired distance. John takes me one more step, and John says to me, I don't want to live near this I-4 corridor. At night, there's all types of trucks screaming up and down the highway. When it rains, people forget they know how to drive, and there's all kinds of accidents. So I just want to avoid living close to this I-4 corridor. So what I'm going to do is identify my shape again, which in this case, again, will be a rectangle. I'm going to find my starting point on the map, click and hold, and I'm going to highlight the I-4 corridor that my customer does not want to live near. Nothing special at this point has happened. I simply have one shape over another shape. By the way, you can draw up to 10 different shapes on a map at any given point. But I am going to look for my red dot that identifies my starting point. I'm going to place my mouse over it, and I'm going to select the Exclude This Shape option. When I click, that shape turns red, and nothing inside that shape will ever appear for me as a result of my search, because I have excluded that area. So I've identified John's area to the letter, exactly the way John wants it, and we still have 400 properties that we still need to go through. So what I'm going to do is jump back to the criteria page by clicking on the criteria tab located at the top right hand side of the page. Click. You're brought back to where all your criteria was, but now at the top of the page is a very important reminder. You have something called the map area selected in big red letters now displayed at the top of the page. This is the system reminding you that you've drawn a shape on the map. Why does it remind you? Because you still have access to your zip code, your county, and your city fields. These fields are all assumed whenever you draw a shape. Your zip code, your county, and city are all included in the shape area you've selected. So if you use a zip code, for example, that is outside of the shape you've just drawn on the map, then your results are going to cancel out and you're going to show 0 results. At that point, you're actually using conflicting pieces of criteria. You're telling the search, look here, but then no, not really, look over here. So please be aware of that when you are using your map. I'm going to start off by selecting the property style my customer is most interested in, which in this case is going to be single family home. I click to identify the value that I want to include in my search. Now, if I want to include several values in this area, I'm going to hold down the control key, the CTRL key, located at the bottom left-hand corner of my keyboard for Windows users. For any Mac users, you're going to look for your command key. It is the key immediately to the left of the spacebar. So you're going to hold down your respective key, and you're going to click on the additional items that you want to include in your search categories. Same if you want to unselect. You'll also notice several of these pick list values, as they're called, have 3 additional filter options at the bottom of their box. The and, or, and not filters. And means that I want this value, and this value, and this value to all be a part of my listings data. A or option would say I want this value, or this value, or this value, but all 3 values do not need to necessarily be a part of my listings data. The not value would allow me to exclude these values from being a part. I do not want appraisal. I do not want inspections. So the not value eliminates those styles of properties to display as results. So I've got my property style selected, and I'm going to move in to the geographical area. Where is my property located? So we've already talked about the zip code, county, and city fields and how we use the map and not to use these fields if you need to. But I'm going to show you a couple of techniques in this area that you may want to take advantage of. First, we have something called a wildcard search. For example, if you're ever searching by subdivision and you're not quite sure what the subdivision's name is, for example, the Fountains. If you're not sure if the word the begins the name of the subdivision or how it begins, you're going to put an asterisk at the beginning of the field. This asterisk is the universal symbol for a wildcard search. The next step in this wildcard search is incorporating what you do know about the value. So we do know for a fact that the subdivision's name is Fountains, or at least somewhere in there the name Fountains is included. But let's say you don't even know how to spell the word. So instead of spelling out the entire word, what I can do is include just what I know, and I know the first 4 letters, which are F-O-U-N. And what I'll do is, to finish, is add another asterisk. What I've just completed in this field, what I've just told this field to do, was to use the contains type of filter. So I'm not sure how it starts, I'm not sure how it finishes. However, these 4 letters in a row have to show up as part of my subdivision's name in order for this to display as a result. Let's go one step further. Let's say I want to exclude this subdivision. I don't want to see any listings from this subdivision. My customer has expressed to me that they do not want to live in this subdivision. So what I'm going to do is, at the very beginning of this field, before even the asterisk, I am going to include an exclamation mark. The exclamation point equals exclude. So that's your formula. Whenever you want to exclude something, you add an exclamation point into this field. This technique works exceptionally well in something like the city field. For example, if you're ever looking for properties in, say, a city as St. Petersburg, St. Petersburg has many variations of how that city's name is included in the system, where it's Saint spelled out, Petersburg spelled out, or it may be ST period Pete, variations of the way that city is spelled. So if I wanted to find as many properties as I could from that St. Petersburg area in one search, I'm going to start off by putting my asterisk into that field. And then I'm going to think for what is the most common denominator used when people are talking about the city of St. Petersburg. Well, in my mind, the most common denominator would be Pete. Pete is used in Petersburg, in St. Pete, in all the different variations that I can think of. Pete is the common denominator. So I am going to type in Pete and put another asterisk at the end. So just like FOUN would find me any available properties that have the subdivision name that says FOUN, the city field will find me any city name that has the word Pete in it. This technique can be used on any field that is a text style field. So things like your remark sections as well can utilize the asterisks technique, and as well as the exclamation point technique. The next thing I'm going to cover is the characteristics of the property. How to use these different fields that identify price ranges, that identify beds and bathrooms, and so forth. One of the most important fields whenever searching for your customer is the price field. It indicates what your customer's budget is on this purchase. In this case, my customer is asking for a property anywhere between $150,000 to $250,000. You'll notice I did not include the 3 additional zeros because the system is already including them. To separate or indicate a range, what I did was add a dash in between the 2 numbers. So you have your 1 number dash your second number, and it tells me that I want to search from this number all the way to this number and everything in between. The beds and baths. Using the beds and baths, if I want 3 or more bedrooms, I'm going to put my 3, and then or more, to identify or more, I am going to include a plus symbol. So 3 or more bedrooms, you would type in 3 plus to indicate 3, your minimum value, and anything above is also acceptable. Same thing for bathrooms, 2 plus, so I'm going to put in 2 and my plus symbol. I'm going to skip over half bathrooms, but I am going to include some square footage here. I want 2,500 square feet or less. But let's take a look at my matches. My matches have now gone down to 0. I have done something incorrectly here, and I want to point out that because I left out my identifying direction, whether it be my plus or my minus, it thinks that I want exactly 2,500 square feet. So there aren't that many properties in this area that are exactly 2,500 square feet, so it returns to me 0 results, which means now I have to use the proper search operator for my search to work. And I'm going to indicate a minus because I want 2,500 square feet or less. I'm back up to 52 properties. I'm going to add a private pool because I can, which is going to drop me down to 20 total matches. This is a great amount of properties to start now an auto notification search to your customer.